All right. Well, today is Sunday, the 4th of September. Today we are doing a little bit of a paint and chill. Got some friends that might drop by a little later. And until that point, I plan on, I'll be on camera in just a second. Until that point, I'm going to talk about a few things that happened this week. Let me get the video edited so I can make sure the porn bots don't come in. That's an important thing. Porn bots like to come in here. Not made for kids, customization, send messages, subscribers only. All right. All right, so I'd like to see everybody here having a interesting day so far. When I say interesting, I mean that. My friend Chris sent me some figures yesterday that they are primed, like this armored bear with the neck armor on him. Another river drake. His STLs and his printers are getting a really good detail. A dancing lady, which nobody ever complains about. And a beautiful little serving winch, which more people should tip their witcher. Got some sort of scourge lord there. Come on, camera, focus. There we go. Now we're getting a detail in. Okay. He's been around for a while. Got a new camel. Not really liking the humps on it, but those are how some humps are. Goblins. Two new Shalob style spiders. Anyway, my friend Chris, who is in my game, he was there with us yesterday. He sent me these. Yesterday we had a campaign day, which wasn't the best game I've ran. I was not fatigued. I wasn't needing sleep. I was needing my players to be there and be ready to work as a team, which it felt like we were struggling to get momentum. Hey, Shadow and Sun. And Shadow's one of my other players. My father just sent me a photo of the pizza that he made for the family. Got a severe group of individuals in my family that are very handy and special around the kitchen. My father taught me the secret of pizza dough rising. Still learning the little tricks he's got. Shadow, it is going really good. Are you doing crafting work today? Are you going to be crafting at all today? If you are, I'll just throw the link out there in the usual spot, your email. The game we play is right now we play Pathfinder. It's not a bad game. It's a very crunchy game. It does its job of giving you a reliable rule set. When I say reliable rule set, I mean a rule set that you can use, you can plug it in, you can start to play, and then hey man, War, how you doing? As you continue to play, the one thing about Pathfinder, which I've got to say, it continuously got evaluated, and they did their best to keep the game to where you would have a group of people that were willing to answer questions at any given time. And they built a fan base that was in their forums, which was really, really helpful for those first few years. We were coming out of 3.5 gaming, and most of it was not really changed that much. A few things were changed, like pneumatics on the saving throws, small things like that. They changed the way you do grapples, which made it a lot better. And that was funny because the 3.5 wasn't really good with grapples, so the Paizo's Pathfinder made grapples excessively workable. You could play a wrestler. And 4th edition Dungeons and Dragons came out, and they brought up 3.5, and they're like, look at how terrible these grapple rules are. We don't have grappling in our game. You find a monster, you just kill it. Which I thought was funny. Gaming Ballistic, Douglas, the guy behind Gaming Ballistic, he wrote a book called Dungeon Grappling, which was system agnostic, but you could use it for any system out there. You could use it for Star Wars or Dungeons and Dragons, and those are the only two I really cared about because those are still the only two that I really want to play. And Dungeon Grappling was a fantastic book, and you could execute special maneuvers, and they had a small set of subsystems in there that were very simple, and it was kind of like the old martial arts out of, I'm going to say, Palladium, where basically you just add up all your bonuses, and then you look at the other guy and add up their bonuses, and then you roll the die, and whoever gets more numbers wins. And I prefer systems like that allow you just the simple taxation math to be able to fix yourself. People are wondering why I'm painting a camel first. I like camels. I'm not really a big fan of camels in real life, but I think they're just fun looking creatures. They're not really great creatures in real life. The one time I had one that wasn't separated by like a cage and me, he tried to eat my ball cap. I took a little offense to that. Ruined it. Ruined my 1982 St. Louis Cardinals World Champions ball cap. Used to be a Cardinal fan. Used to love Tommy Herr. Been to Busch Stadium probably 10 or 12 times. 3 of those times was with my childhood friend Eric and his family because they would always grab me and go on vacation. So today we're doing this. And hey, Papa Cotton, how are you doing, sir? Anybody in the chat wants to come in here and talk gaming or a little bit of gaming and politics, that'd be fine too. I had a funny fucking comment on the video I did Friday where I pretended to be a Seattle Dungeons and Dragons fan. I gotta set this down. I'll read this to you because this guy was kind of unhinged. He was upset. Sorry, kid. Okay. Hopefully everything's going good for you there, Papa Cotton. Let me get over here. Okay. This guy says, another Brian Stelter political extremist. Always loved this garbage invading gaming. No, not to trust other channels when they have guests they promote now. YouTube is clearly not a place to find gaming. Only political pundits having pissing contests with other political pundits. I give him a thumbs up. Okay. Respond back. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem shit. Go back. Go back. Boomer. Boomer moment. There's one. Fuck it. Give me this. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem like Wizards is concerned with gaming. They find more value in marketing their game to people who don't buy their products, but identify as gamers. Worse, their latest products claim to be hereditary pieces based on items made in the 1990s, and there's little to nothing of crunch in these books. If you like the confused modernist videos, that's great. If you don't, that's fine too. My channel isn't in bubble wrap and has a warning video at the gate. As long as companies like WotC and Paizo keep making L's, I'll be here to discuss it. This guy comes back with a guy with no subscribers. I don't really give a shit. I'm doing this because it's content. No warning video, just recommended from a stream replay you were on. It was also mostly politics. Well, gee, I guess if you've seen me 2 times talk about politics, I might know something about something. I might have a sense of history. If people left politics to the politicians and made more about games, then it would be more productive. Sadly, too few discuss games and can only discuss politics, not even those related to use in games. Listen, dude, the entire Wizards video introducing a product known as 1D&D is trying to resell people a product with this edition feels entirely wrapped in identity politics. I'm also irritated by the intrusion of identity politics in gaming. Antonio Gramsci must be happy with his work, and many in popular media seem to cling to life telling us repeated political mantras. Anyway, this is my channel. I live in a country with a Bill of Rights, and if I want to discuss gaming and politics on here, it will be discussed. And there's a part in that video that I did where I was pretending to be the poor individual. Papa Cotton's like, I'll have to leave shortly. No, wait, things are okay, says Papa Cotton. Manowar 665, neighbor the B says, we'll have to leave shortly. The missus and I are headed to the neighboring town, taking my uncle to see 40th anniversary director's cut of Wrath of Khan tonight. Holy shit, that's tonight? Hey, I have something to do. Woo! And Shadow and Sun, if you check your email, it will be in your email. The link is. So, anyway, that was my excitement while I was getting laundry taken care of today, and I don't do my own laundry. It's a tax write-off. I went out today for laundry and I saw that that was in my notifications when I got back in the car. So I read that and I'm like, yeah, I'm kind of interested what this guy has to say, but he's me on a political stream. You think I'd probably talk about politics a little bit. And then he's upset that I'm in gaming. Well, I've only been gaming since I was 13, kid. That's a hobby. Politics I'm kind of involved with because my fucking 401k got hijacked by BlackRock and now it's making no money. Man of War says Bruce Lombardo, the Wrath of Khan is a Fathom event today, tomorrow, and Thursday. Huh. It's probably being sponsored by some of the local theaters around here because that's something that they would do. They would want to have people come in and enjoy themselves and spend $20 or $30 on Wrath of Khan to go see it again. Fuck yeah, I would. I love that movie. It's one of the best Star Trek scores in the entire series of Star Trek. I don't think I've ever listened to any other Star Trek album front to back 3 times. Hey, Shadow's here. I don't think I've ever listened to any Star Trek album 3 times. Like I did with that. Hey, Shadow, how you doing?
Hey, not too bad, not too bad. Trying to get the house ready for my son's game. I don't know. I still don't know if I'm dungeon mastering for these Chrome Snatchers or if I'm just going to be the maitre d' all night.
Um, ask Jack if he wants you to, and
Well,
you.
it's not a matter of me. It's they have another DM who might not be able to make it, and I said, if he can't make it, I'll DM for him.
Yeah. Just tell them they're like, listen, you guys might not be able to finish this campaign. The current campaign I have going on is over 20 years old with a lot of the same players. And so they live around here. You guys might want to do your schooling and college work around here so you don't miss a game. Just saying, I mean, you talk about that.
I'm intending it to be a one shot, even if it runs 6 hours, whatever. And if they want, to come back, they're more than welcome. Just not on Sundays, because that's a pretty busy day around the Shadow household. We got Connell's video we do, and then we normally do a video. And lately, this last month, because of my son's school schedule, our whole regular schedule has been kind of different.
Hey, Papa Cotton says our dungeon master moved away. Papa Cotton 5, I'm going to drop a link in the chat for you. And there's a group of individuals that are on this Discord that like playing older style games. They don't mind, most of them don't mind if you're going to play 5th edition or whatever, play whatever game you want, but be there and be consistent. If you have rule changes, put out information. That way everybody can talk about it and discuss it. The main thing I'm seeing right now is that there's a lot of individuals that don't want to play this Unearthed Arcana bullshit that's in the new 1D&D. They don't like the new racial changes that have gone on. That's like endemic throughout the entire group of them. All right, the link is in the chat for the Discord for Legion of Myth. Legion of Myth has a tab called Looking for Other Gamers. Looking for group. And you're going to bump into a ton of people on there. I'm in there occasionally. Shadow's in there occasionally.
Yep.
And we talk about all sorts of stuff there, but we have a big love of gaming. I don't love games. I don't love games at all. Not
Dang, dude. You need some miniature cases.
I need to finish these first, then I'll worry about the miniature cases. So far in the past,
Can you hear me?
All right, so something's happening with the interwebs. Apparently, I've got my visuals back. Sorry about this. We have a Spectrum over here, and we're waiting for Discord or for Google to get back with us so we can see if their Google Fiber is better.
Yeah, I missed like 2 minutes of what you said.
All I said was I can hear my echo on your electronic device. There we go. While he's fixing that, Shadow, this is the past 7 days of what I've finished. I was doing some retouching on some of these. My internet is usually okay. Something happened. Somebody hit a line somewhere about 2 weeks ago. And it's not been quote unquote stable. Manowar says that they're going to take their uncle to see the 40th anniversary director's cut of Wrath of Khan tonight. Pop Cotton says things are okay. I dropped the chat link for Legion of Myth, and Pop Cotton says my biggest problem is that it's difficult to find a campaign that tolerates evil alignments. Papa Cotton.
Yeah, sorry, can't help you there, man.
Papa Cotton will want to probably look at. We'll probably want to look at Shadow and Sun, or ask Shadow and Sun as to how to make that something more palatable for tables if you're going to play evil alignments.
Yeah, it's rough. You know, I ran one for 20 plus years, and they all turned good at the end, which was, you know, a dream come true, because evil campaigns, you know, like RPG Elite said, you know, it messes with you eventually. It gets to you. As both a player and a DM, you got to kind of question why you want to go there in the first place, whether or not you really want to be evil or just selfish. You know, if you want to get away with crap, you know, cool, I get that. You know, that there is the rogue or the thief profession there for a reason. There's different alignments, but you know, how evil do you want to be? You know, some people, you know, are going to have limits, and if you have limits, then you really don't want to be evil. You just want to be, you know, nasty or whatever you want to call it. And you know, how far do you think you're going to get? You know, eventually the monsters are going to stop being monsters, and they're going to start being paladins and angels and things like that. Do you really want to go into, you know, toe to toe with an angel when you're, you know, 20th level? You really think you're going to survive that?
Probably not.
I mean, unless you go to the DM's house and there's a pentagram behind the DM's chair, yeah, you're probably not going to make it.
So what time is your game starting?
Supposedly at 3, but I don't know for sure. You know, they're teenagers. They're all going to have different. You know, there's supposed to be 5 or 6 kids showing up plus my son. So, you know, I'll believe it when they get here. You know, I have absolutely nothing prepared other than a few mental notes, and that's all I need. I've been doing this for, you know, 41 years as of about April this year. So, you know, there's not a whole lot they can throw at me that's going to, you know, throw me for a loop. And if I'm just watching and making pizza for the kids, then, you know, I can deal with that too. I maybe get some reading in, make sure they don't, you know, pull out my son's sword collection and, you know, start trying to go all SCA in the backyard. Because he does have he does have a pretty nice sword collection.
You have a nice sword
You have a
collection?
nice sword collection?
My son and I both have our own separate collections.
Papa Cotton
Oh,
5
God,
said,
5 said,
too fun to
too
play.
fun to play.
Make another good
Make
character.
another good character.
He likes playing
He
evil.
likes playing evil.
Yeah, I would have to ask how evil and why. You know, it's you know, everybody's got their own tastes and stuff, and I get it, especially after playing the hero for a decade or so. You kind of want to cut loose, but at the same time, I prefer the term scoundrels. You know, you're not going to find a whole lot of fiction out there, legitimate fiction where the main characters are cold blooded, murdering, monsters. You're just not, uh, a ragtag bunch of misfits that get thrown together. That's different. You can get behind that no matter who you are. But when every town you go to ends up burning to the ground as you leave, eventually the bounty's going to be on your head that is going to going to make sure you have no safe place to hide.
See, I'm a big
Yeah, I'm a
fan
big fan of
operative
operative
like
and
Firefly series.
Firefly series.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're
I don't know if
familiar
you're familiar with
Familiar with what?
with the Firefly show.
Firefly show.
Oh, it's my favorite TV show with real people of all time.
Yeah, actually,
Actually,
that show.
show.
Hey,
Hold on, you're breaking up. Let me come back in and out again. You
Yeah,
sound like you're underwater.
All right, here he is back. Hopefully, his sound issues aren't the same as what they were.
They were.
Yeah, they're better.
I can still hear
I can still hear my echo.
That's weird. Let me see if I can borrow my son's headphones because I'm in a. I normally don't have this issue. Every once in a while, I have the echo issue, but the only solution is to borrow some headphones. I'll be right back.
Sorry about that, guys.
Sorry about that, guys.
Is that better?
I'm testing. I don't hear myself. That's awesome. Yeah, Man of War
Okay, cool.
65, the echo is murder.
Sorry, guys. I did a bunch of streams this weekend. I did one last night for 6 hours. I did the game with you, and I almost always have this problem with Shauner. It's probably his system, but like when I do my shows and things like that, I nobody ever complains.
I use an open mic. I don't use earbuds or a broadcast headphones. I probably should get some. I'm just waiting for. I'm going to do some other things first. Car related priorities. Being that my car takes me to and from work, the computer can wait.
Yeah, kind of important. Yeah, all I've used for the past 10 years almost is a tablet, and this new tablet I got just God, I hate it. My old tablet was so much better, and now I can't access my old email because my old tablet took a shit on me. Probably a battery issue, but I've been able to use this tablet for the channel. Obviously we film on a separate camera, but even with this tablet, like when I pop the memory card in and out, even though I
I do the unloading, thing you're supposed to do with the memory card. It just doesn't want to do any of that. So sometimes we've made a video and, I pop it into the tablet, try to upload it, and it's like, nope, it's green screen. Just this weird green pixelated version of my video. I can watch it on the camera. I can do other stuff, but if and it's a brand new memory card because I had this issue happen before. So twice I've had to refilm a video after we did it, 30-minute video, try to, upload it. No dice. Crap. Got to reshoot the video. And we just can't have that happen when we're doing our crafting videos because we can't go back in time and uncraft what we crafted.
Sounds terrible. I'd like to
Yeah,
say,
yeah, I don't know what.
Manowar665 says he has to step out. He's going to go take his uncle to the 40th anniversary screening of the
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Oh, shit, doesn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yep. I still got to get the little guy into Star Trek. We watched like half of the pilot a while back, and getting time for the little guy and I to just sit in front of the TV and watch something is just really hard. He comes home from school now an hour later, and between school, shower, dinner, homework, trying to squeak in a video, there's just no freaking time. I've got more free time. If people wanted to game from the hours of 8:30 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon, my time, avocado time, I could have a game every day of the week. But just time is just becoming a more and more precious commodity every day.
It's never not going to be. And
Yeah.
I was trying to explain earlier before you stepped in, had a comment on my YouTube complaining about how I was talking about gaming and politics and neither one were worth listening to. And I'm like, excuse me, and the guy says, like, the political landscape is invading gaming. And I'm like, well, yeah, I've been a gamer for 30 years, and now identity politics is forcing its way into Wizards of the Coast products, which we don't need to buy the new stuff. You have the old books, but they don't get obsolete. They're not obsolete. You can write new home rules. You can write a new campaign setting with the old campaign rules, with the old edition.
Yep.
And there'd be nothing that requires changing. If you want to update it, it's all up to you. And that's, the thing that makes me upset the most is that people are going to buy it. People are going to buy 5th edition for 5.666666, which whatever they call it.
Right.
1D&D. And they're just contributing to the degeneracy of the hobby.
That's the point. That's the goal. I was talking to DM James. There are countries that forbid Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, a lot of Islamic countries won't let it in
because it promotes heroism and individualism and self-reliance and self-sufficiency, and in the countries that don't forbid it, they promote the newer ideas in gaming, which also just dumb down those very same qualities. So it all leads to the same, dumbed down landscape of citizenry, so that they think of what we've learned from being D&D players or gamers in general. All the different skills that we've either learned, or little tiny micro skills, or the desire to go out and actually learn those skills that our characters know. That's the last thing the powers that be want, is a bunch of people knowing how to start their own fire, how to purify their own water, how to fend for themselves without big daddy government.
Papa Cotton 5 says, I do not understand how I ended up with so many Trekkie friends. What have I done to my life?
There's nothing wrong with being a Trekkie. Nothing at all.
I used to see in the Trek circles used to be like the serious intellectuals. They were kind of liberals, but they weren't so much.
You mean commies?
You didn't have the fucking left infest all the higher education like it does now. You had people that were involved with engineering more or not that were involved with Trek. And they went into engineering because of Scotty. They fucking love Scotty. And
or Trip from Enterprise.
Yeah.
I mean, he was like the star of the show as far as I was concerned.
I love James Doohan. I thought he was fun to watch. I followed him in other stuff, which was not nearly as rewarding as I wanted it to be. When I was a
Of
young
course
kid,
not.
he was on a show called Jason of Star Command, and that was not a really good sci-fi show. It tried. It was
Yeah.
Saturday Night Star Wars as close as we could get to it in 1978 on like a $10,000 budget, and it was interesting. You know, and there's a lot of it on YouTube. You can go and watch what I'm talking about. It's Jason of Star Command, and you can see that they had the basics, they had the models, they had that. They weren't good with camera tricks.
Well, I think it wasn't until like I want to say the 2000s, maybe a little bit later, that they stopped trying to make good sci-fi and they started trying to indoctrinate people more than you would expect in just a good old-fashioned sci-fi show. So many things have changed in the last 20 years when when it comes to this hobby or just being sci-fi or fantasy fan. It's it's kind of alarming, but it's not really surprising, if that makes any sense.
It makes sense. Um, Calvinani says, I like Trek. Papa Cotton says, on Dungeons and Dragons, his first experience with D&D, with woke D&D, was an hour of player characters role-playing romances with one another. I asked how I can roll for that, and I got booted. Huh.
Well, first off, if it's a bunch of dudes, there's a problem. Second,
Yeah.
anything like that should be handled between the referee, game master, and the player, and it should be as minimal as possible, but not completely, devoid of that. Me. I'm a big softy when it comes to romance in stories. Without it, it lacks all of the overriding major drive of all living creatures, so to speak. There's there may come a point where it's no longer interesting or important to somebody, but if you've never been through that phase in your life where it's all consuming, it is why we continue as a species. Without it, we would have died off a long time ago.
Our species has been propagated by the young for many centuries, for thousands of years.
Yep.
And
And to ignore it as a motivational factor in a story and in a game is, just makes it incredibly sterile. Even what was it, the uh, George Lucas's THX blah blah blah. That
11:30.
was that was a major part of that, was it not?
Mm-hmm. Huge part of it.
And what would happen to us had we if we choose to go down the road where such things are no longer deemed important or even illegal? That would be nightmarish. People, I don't know how people could, other than maybe ugly people could want such a thing. If you're so unpleasant to be with for a plethora of reasons, then I can see how you might want to make everybody else suffer, because no one ever wanted to hook up with you, and now I'm in power. I'm going to make it so nobody can hook up with each other. Yeah, you're evil. Go jump off a bridge.
I mean, the entire prequel trilogy for Star Wars, which I thought was not necessary, the entire second and third movie were propelled along by young teenage boys at the box office wanting to see Natalie Portman get emotionally invested with somebody. They,
Yeah.
And
Or
that was about it.
or even Luke, and his sister up until we found out it was his sister, and then of course that didn't stop certain people, anyways. But whatever.
The Mind's Eye, or the Splinter of the Mind's Eye book, which was going to be the sequel to Star Wars.
Yep, still have my original copy.
If Star Wars performed like shit at the box office, they were going to market Splinter of the Mind's Eye by Alan Dean Foster, I believe. They were going to put that as a sequel. and you'd have to read the book to know what happens after the Star Wars movie. And there's a lot of sexual stuff there between Luke and Leia. They had not thought this through yet, and there's a lot of sexual stuff there that like Luke is wanting. Just read like the open the cover, and they have like a couple paragraphs like there before you start reading it, and it kind of gives you a preview of it. The before you even start the book, the first like 3 paragraphs of the story, which really aren't in the story until the middle, I believe, is Luke fantasizing about Leia's center of her soul, and he quite vividly thinks about this, and he gets obsessed about it, you know. And it was supposed to be the sequel.
It was Carrie Fisher. How could you not? I mean, come on, guys.
She's on my fucking background on my PC, dude. At age 30. Hold on. Let me exit out. Let me. Don't want to dox myself. I don't give a shit if I dox myself. You see that?
Dang. Yeah.
That's her back in like 1980. Still, in my opinion, the fucking ideal woman. I know that sounds kind of crazy, but damn. And Harrison Ford was tapping it. Lucky bastard. I mean, not really anymore. He's kind of old, so he's got to be powered by blue pills. 2, he's with Callista Flockhart, which kind of not really a sexual creature.
You know, I could, you know, she wasn't hideous.
No, she wasn't hideous, but she was like a mid. If she dressed up for you and you knew her, you probably thought Callista was a hot chick.
Yeah, I'd have to see her without makeup to really, you know, give a 100% opinion on that. But yeah, I mean, Harrison Ford was what, 34? She was 19. I was actually in a relationship very much like that once upon a time. And can you imagine what would have happened if they had stayed together? You know, just what it would have actually done to the Star Wars franchise. There would have been no 20. There would have been no 20-year gap. You know what I mean? They would have had kids together, and Lucas would have been like, "Well, guess who I'm, you know, casting as as Kylo Ren or whatever, you know," or maybe it would have never even went that route. I, you know, would like to hope, but you know, it didn't work out. You know, that 20-year gap, in my opinion, is what ruined, you know, the last 3 movies as the very basis of the beginning of its ruination, because the last 3 movies were god awful. But had they not waited the 20 years, had they only waited, you know, maybe even 10, things would have been so much different and quite possibly good.
I would,
you know, maybe Mark Hamill wouldn't have turned into such a douchebag, you know, and actually, you know, been able to, you know, do something besides voiceovers. You know, you got to wonder when an actor like that, you know, who gets the greatest role, you know, possibly in science fiction history, and does absolutely nothing afterwards of any, you know, real importance. You know,
he did something.
You know, I know
cocaine.
I really don't know.
He did something afterwards. He just did a fuck ton of cocaine. That was the main problem.
Is that what it was? I don't know any. I mean, he was literally off all my radars for you know, many years. You know, I know he did that thing with Jay and Silent Bob, which was just ridiculous. And he did some stuff on The Flash, etc. But I think that might have been after some of, you know, but you know, nothing on his own. You know, nothing where he was the star. You know, starring, you know, actor. He could have, you know, he could have done anything. You know, with you know, the clout that came with Star Wars. You know, the up until Return of the Jedi, he could have been in anything he wanted, and he didn't seem to, You know, maybe they threw so much money at him that he's just like, yeah, I'm just going to do cocaine. I'm good. I don't know. I mean,
I think that's literally what he did.
that's pretty sad, and I can see how that would rot your brain to the point, every time I hear him speak on anything, I just, me, when it's pretty much impossible for me to disconnect the actor with the acting. Once I find out certain things, you know, the judgmental bastard that I am, if I find out, your skeletons, so to speak, I'm never gonna have another kind word for you. Period.
Calvinani's like they didn't stick to the simple formula of the first three movies. They completely abandoned that entire thing. They did like 19 rewrites for the Empire Strikes Back because the first write of it was written by Leigh something or other, some science fiction
Lay
author.
bracket.
Yeah, she died like 3 months after she submitted it, or right at the start of like 1980 or 79, somewhere right around there.
Right.
And they're still working on it, and they kept working at that script because her initial idea was okay. It just wasn't grandiose, if that makes any sense. It
Sure.
didn't have the same weight as what Star Wars did. And so they wrote it another like 19 times before they got it to a real tight, like 2.5 hour movie. I know that sounds kind of funny. It was a real tight 2.5 hour movie, but Empire Strikes Back is really a fast moving film.
It's the crowning jewel of the entire series, in my opinion.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I'm not a
And
fan
you know
of
who we have to thank. You know who we have to thank for it, don't you?
Irvin Kershner.
David Prowse.
Really, what happened?
I got to meet him when I was a kid, and I got his autograph. But he was the one who suggested, supposedly, to George Lucas that Vader was Luke's father. And while Lucas denies that he didn't already have that idea in his head, I know what kind of a borrower Lucas was. So I'm like, okay, if I got to believe two different people, here's this one guy who says one thing and he's got absolutely nothing to gain, and then there's another guy who's got everything to protect. You know, Plus I saw him when he said it, and he didn't appear to be, making
You
up
didn't think he was
something
lying.
or telling. Right.
You didn't think
And
he was lying to you.
no, not at all. And what good would it do him to make up such a lie? People are just gonna, as soon as the words come out of his mouth, he's got to know that people are gonna go, "Oh, that wasn't your idea. Shut up." Like, if it's true, you're still gonna say it. If it's a lie, your brain's gonna be, clicking a little toward, yeah, I better be careful about how I do this. Even if it's at, nanoseconds of thought processes, it's still gonna go through your brain if you're telling a lie. That's just how it works. And had it gone, had Lucas not done that, or had Vader not been Luke's father, the story would have gone in a completely different direction, than it did. I know not Cal, Connell. Sorry, he likes to bring up the daddy issues, but that story was about this father son relationship from the very beginning to the very end. You know, because that's a big, huge part of human interactions. Fathers and sons are a massive part of human history and the entire human condition.
And that's something that a lot of people want to overlook, but they really shouldn't, because the first movie starts off and you realize that Luke is being taken care of by his aunt and uncle, or they might be his aunt and uncle, but you don't really know.
Right.
And the more you hear, the more you're there eavesdropping on their conversation, you realize that everybody's trying to protect Luke from turning into something he shouldn't. Like maybe his father's a serial alcoholic or drug user. And
Right.
then
Right.
you have no idea what they're really talking about until the third movie. where David Prowse's body language and James Earl Jones's convincing speeches are really just kind of hammering it home. Well, maybe there is a chance that Luke will be able to bring him to the light, you know. And when that finally happens, you know, it was a big moment in the theaters.
I was devastated as a kid. I read the paperback of Empire before the movie came out, and I was just practically in tears, you know, as a 10, 12, whatever, however old I was, you know, little kid reading it, just going, no, right there with Luke. When Luke said no, I'm like, no, it can't be. I can't process this. You know, I can't. No, it can't be this. You know, and then I went to the theater with my family, and I'm like, oh man, this is gonna suck, man. This is gonna suck. You know, and it was true. You know, I thought, oh, this is just some bullshit book. You know, I picked up at the grocery store. It can't be like this, and you know, it was powerful. I mean, all throughout history, you know, fathers and sons more than mothers and daughters, or fathers and daughters and mothers and sons, have this dichotomy going on. You know, even in the animal kingdom, you know, the young have to, you know, deal with the old, and do these things, you know, sometimes good, sometimes bad, etc. And you know, I could understand if, you know, you've got an issue with, you know, not having a father in your life, or you know, your father was a jerk, or
Yeah.
you know, abusive, or things like that, where you know, this might not be the story for you, you know. Fortunately, my my dad was, I was, you know, I had issues with my dad, I'm not going to lie, but you know, we were cool. You know, when he passed away, we were on great terms. You know, he was proud of me, I was proud of him. And that's what makes a, you know, a healthy family, you know. And the Star Wars was not about a healthy family, you know. I don't know
No.
what Lucas's situation was, but I'd bet, you know, dollars to donuts that his family, he and his father didn't hate each other's guts, etc., and didn't try to kill each other. You know, this was, you know, the ultimate exaggeration of those issues, and you know, it's part of what made it so powerful. It was, you know, to this day there are very few movies that can compare overall in all the different things that, you know, the original trilogy gave us, you know, prior to and since then. It's still one of the most powerful set of movies. You know, I know there's some corny crap in it, and there's some shit that we would wish would go away, but you know, the original trilogy had a major impact on this planet.
See, I would love to have been like my father's age in 1980 when he saw Empire with us, and we were in the theater, and I didn't think about this that much until recently, where my father's science fiction, he would read books for fun, but you would find him out working with his hands on cars more than anything else, or woodworking, because he discovered that hobby through my grandfather on my mom's side, and he really enjoyed that as a young man. And then, you know, he had a son that liked to watch Star Trek, and so dad would watch Star Trek, and that was where my dad really started watching a lot, like he was back in, you know, high school again, because that was when it was on the first time. And my dad's, you know, enjoying it. He's got me age 3 and 4, trying to watch Star Trek, trying to see what's going on, trying to understand the complex plots of the 1967-68 TV show. And then here's Empire Strikes Back. Everybody at his job tells him to go see it, so he takes us to go see it. And my dad must have felt like a fucking child watching that movie with my mom and me there. And, you know, I'm just trying to absorb everything, looking at all these big spaceships rumbling through space. And here's a 20-something-year-old man that lived through the death of Kennedy in middle school, and he watched his friends go off and get killed in Vietnam. And he's watching this science fiction movie where we still eat. In Star Trek, they show it a little bit, but in Star Wars, they really glom onto we are a violent fucking people, you know?
Yep.
every one of those ships that's out there in Star Trek, or in Star Wars, excuse me, in Empire Strikes Back, every one of those ships has the capacity to do damage to another. Even the smallest X-Wing or TIE fighter could just take out one of the batteries in one of those capital ships and just disable it, render it inoperable. But my dad's there just watching all the things happen in front of him. He's like, it was kind of hard to watch that because here I am wanting to just get absorbed in the movie. I've got you right next to me, and we're watching this film for the first time in the theaters at the Avon Theater. And I thought, this is probably as good as it's going to get. And he said, I love the Space Navy aspect of it. But when Luke and Darth Vader started having their lightsaber fight, I really wasn't into it. I'm not into martial arts. I'm not into that. If it's going to be a fight, let me see some boxing. And these guys using laser swords. Ugh. And
Yeah.
he got back into it at the point where Vader whopped off his hand, and there was real damage done. My dad's like, "Oh, there's actual weight in this movie. There's actual consequences in this movie for playing around with laser swords. That guy just got his hand whacked off."
Yep.
And so my dad immediately went back to work the next day, and he's like, "Oh, we saw the movie Empire Strikes Back. I don't know if my son liked it or not. He said he did. He said he loved it, but I don't think he understood what was going on. This guy gets his hand whacked off in the final part of the movie by a laser sword."
Yep. My old man was weird. He he liked or got me into sci-fi, but he didn't seem to like it. If that's he made me watch Silent Running, Rollerball, Sun and Green. Literally said as soon as I get home from school, this movie's on at 3:30. Watch it. Like, okay, and he and my mom both had polio, so they didn't do a lot of things because they were in wheelchairs and stuff. But he was a huge gun nut, and just very into history and military stuff. Even though he couldn't do it, he would have had he been able to. And he wasn't like a big fan of Star Wars, but he really really liked the Death Star X-wing scene. That was like his favorite part. He's like, "Oh, this is great." The dog fight, so to speak. He called it. I'm just like, but all the other stuff was cool too. He's like, just not into it. Which is kind of weird. I mean, your favorite part's that. I get it if you're a, you're a, uh, you know, dogfight, aficionado or fan, which I guess he was because he and I put together, probably almost 100 model airplanes and model kits, and then hung them from my ceiling and stuff like that. But it's just, I mean, the first movie was great. I mean, I can't think of any movie prior to that you can go, oh, this movie was better. Maybe some of the Clint Eastwood, spaghetti westerns. Maybe I could see how you could kind of compare them and go, this is better. But only because they were just so realistic and impactful. But I mean, just the sheer scope and just over the topism and just no one had ever seen anything like that when 1977, 78, whatever, Star Wars rolled out. I mean, the closest thing was Planet of the Apes when it came to being like a household word. Every time you go into the store for like 5 years, you were seeing apes everywhere, T-shirts and coffee cups and all that merchandising. They just put it in your face everywhere you went. Pajamas, Halloween costumes, the whole bit, and then Star Wars comes along and says, hold my beer.
You know what movie I need to watch? I might do that today. Is Valerian. It came out a few years ago, and it's supposed to be the movie that is it's based on the old comic books that George Lucas read, The City of a Thousand Planets.
Okay.
Are you familiar with it?
No, never even heard of it. I do know that he was highly inspired by things like Battle of the Planets. What was the other one? Star Blazers or
Buck Rogers.
Yeah, obviously Buck. Yeah, and Commando Cody, of course.
Yes.
And the black and whites, but then he also got a whole lot of ideas from those Japanese cartoons that were you know, you know, pretty big, and I could see the ideas that he got. Not saying he ripped off the entire, everything, just little things here and there that,
I don't think we ripped
obviously.
off anything like Battleship
No,
Yamato,
no,
but
no,
I
no.
think,
Just like the scope of it. You
yes,
know the, just the, okay. We can go this big. We can, we can, it doesn't have to be just like, Lost in Space. There's one little tiny starship, or, uh, you know, the like 2001. That kind of earthy technology. No, we're going big time. Like he made it in Texas. Just everything is just boom. Just okay. What? Oh, really? Okay, no, no. Give it some steroids, then give it some Viagra, and then boom, here we go.
I wish you had known me about 10 or 12 years ago when I was in Washington, Illinois. Because the reason I'm saying this is that Garrett was at or Baron G Rock was in a campaign we were in. The tables we used were 9x5. Okay.
Cool, cool. I had an 8x4 ping pong table, and
Yeah.
when I got it, my girlfriend says we're gonna play ping pong. I'm like, no, don't be silly. And then she's like, what are you doing with that glue and that railroad mat? And I'm like, just watch. And I turned it into a gaming table. But yeah, you got to go big, man. Every once in a while, cool. It's cool to stay down, in the the back alleys and the sewers, and the dirt and the grime and stuff like that. But every once in a while you gotta go big. You gotta just say the sky's the limit. Let's use our imagination. That's one thing my old man said to me, and one of the few things I've kept at the forefront of his education, let's say it. It's like, if you're gonna dream big.
We had two 5x9 tables we put together for like a
Oh
18 by
Jesus, too far. Oh dude.
18 by 10, and I was able to get like a battle mat completely rolled out, and we were running through Paizo's Curse of the Crimson Throne campaign, which is probably their best single story they did. It's the second campaign they released for Pathfinder. And Baron G-Rock was in that. And I remember watching him in the final hour of that game. I was looking at all my players' faces as they were just like scared to death they were going to lose this big ass fight. They were all like 18th level. They started when they were first. And this is my last week in Illinois. And they had this big ass fight. And this queen was singing these spells. And she was able to sing 2 disintegrate spells around. And it was just fun watching the party get withered, get completely just watch their hit points drop. Had a few people fail fortitude save, so like they took 80 points damage each or something. And it was just a fun ass campaign where I was able to put them on the ropes after we played together for like a year and 3 months. We're almost like 18th level. The players have not been at that level before. Garrett's just telling me afterwards that's probably one of the best campaigns I'm ever going to have in my life. I'm like, I don't know, man. We'll have to stay in touch. And here he is now. He's 2022. That was 2011. And we're still talking about gaming. We're still hanging out and doing stuff.
I'm telling you, it's the greatest hobby of all time. You could argue, a lot of things, but watching, football and other people do the things, that ain't no hobby.
Not really.
I mean, if you're playing it, cool, good for you. It's probably pretty damn healthy, provided you don't break too many bones, or screw up your knees or things like that. But when it comes to the intellectual aspect and the overall enjoyment that's possible, and the memories that can last, of glorious deeds done, nothing beats this hobby.
Really, it doesn't. It really doesn't. There's other things, I would like to get back into fitness a little bit, but it's like it's 87 degrees. It feels like 96 out there right now. I go outside and I have to come back in, take a shower, and change my shirt. It's bad.
Well, you think about it this way. There is, obviously there's an age limit. Okay, you're not going to have your, 4-year-old kid, start role playing with you. Maybe,
No.
but let's say from 10 to right before you start losing your marbles at 90 or whatever, it's like the equalizer. I was thinking about this when I was talking to Victor the other night, about firearms, but when it comes to the hobbies, this is the all inclusive hobby. Stephen Hawkins could play this game just as good as anybody else. Mean Joe Green, same thing. You literally all you need are your brains, and a good die rolling hand, and that's it. You could be a brain in a jar, and someone else could roll your dice, and you could still be doing this. It's for what should be the most inclusive hobby of all time, and the most prolific hobby of all time, considering how short a time it's existed. In the way we understand it, I understand that children role play when they go in their backyards, or they're playing with their friends or their imaginary friends or what have you. They're role playing, and that's why I was so excited seeing my son as a kid playing with his best friends, and they were, playing make believe in the backyard. But my son's telling his friends, what's going on in the situation, and where they are, and describing all this stuff. And he'd never seen me play D&D before. He had no idea what any of my hobby was. And I'm just like, my God, it's in the DNA. He was born to be a DM, and a few short years later, I was right. And he's, doing the things, rolling the dice, writing up stories and adventures for his friends and his new friends. It's just, we're so lucky to be in this hobby.
I'll agree with that 110%.
So you guys can out there in TV land can understand why some of us get so irritated, if not downright livid, when people try to tear it down, warp it into something it should never be, or just plain shit on it for lack of understanding.
It's very frustrating. It's really frustrating because we're supposed to be a diverse group of individuals no matter what. I mean, you were born in California, I was born in Illinois, or you were born where you're born, I was born in Illinois. Got chat, which is all over all over the world, and you're going to have different ideas and mindsets there, but they don't. There's a controlling authority out there that they get upset that if we're all from different places and we have different political affiliations, that's not diverse enough. I have to be a Chinese female. You have to be a black male from Uganda. Timmy over there in chat, he's got to be from England and gay with his 4 roommates that all love rampant butt sex and monkeypox. We have to be completely diverse in every aspect. And they're not happy. They need one more division. It's like, no. Listen, there are some people out there that they're not going to want to drive a Pontiac GTO. There are some people that are out there that they would rather have someone else take care of all the transportation duties and just ride a fucking bus all day. And there are other people out there that they can't have pork. They can't eat bacon. They're like, no, it doesn't agree with me. I explode out the back end.
Got to feel for those people, man.
I do. I really feel so. I eat bacon for them. Galvanani says, I love Planet of the Apes. Papa Cotton says, the funniest thing about the marketing for Planet of the Apes is that they spoil the movie on the cover of the VHS box.
It's not funny. It's sad and deliberate and intentional. And quite honestly, you know, there's a special place in hell for the person whose idea that was.
You really didn't like
You,
that idea, did you?
no, I mean, the first time I saw it, I had no idea what was coming. You know, I mean, I kind of got the clues, you know, here and there. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But you didn't know the exact, you know, honest to God truth of the last moment until it hits you in the face. And you know, the fact that Rod Serling pretty much, you know, was behind it, you know, the whole thing. To me, it's the greatest episode of the Twilight Zone ever. You know,
Yeah.
the culmination. You know, after you've watched seasons 1 through 5 of the Twilight Zone, pop that in and tell me I'm wrong. It was just like, oh my God, Serling was an absolute genius. You know,
Yes. Yes.
way ahead of his time. You know, despite certain, you know, ideas, you know, he may or may not have had. You know, there's very few things that that can compare to his life's work
I
when it
never
comes to.
saw. I never saw the box art or the poster until after 5 years. I had seen Planet of the Apes, and I saw it first on like syndicated TV.
Same here.
You know, and I didn't. I was a country kid. We lived 26 miles away from the nearest population center where you could reliably buy all the staples you needed at a reasonable price. My grandfather lived 6 miles away from us, and he had a store for many years. He had a store in the little town of Latham, Illinois, and he would cut up your meat that you wanted or whatever. But you you would never be able to afford the food for your house if you bought strictly from there because he jacked the prices up 40%. So you would go to town and get your food from there, from the main stores, from the big grocers, because all he had was just this little country store in this little bumpkin of a town. And on the way over to the big store, we didn't have a movie theater right next to it, so I had no idea what movies were playing. I had no idea what the box cover art was. When we finally got a Betamax, Betamax, guys, Sony's first attempt at exclusivity that I can recall. We got a Betamax player, and my dad took me to this place called Stars and Stripes Video, which was a kind of like a family video place for those of you in the Midwest. But they had movies I'd never heard of, seen of, even knew existed before there. And there
Man,
was a movie.
when the Betamax and the VCRs and the Laserdiscs came, that changed everything for us. Oh my
Yeah,
God, that was. There was one other thing that happened for us back then that you may not remember. We had these things called the Pop Shop. You probably don't remember it,
go ahead.
but it was a chain of stores that sold nothing but soda.
I've never
Okay,
heard of this.
okay. It wasn't Pepsi. It was the Pop Shop brand, and they had sodas to this day that you know I've never seen. I stopped drinking soda like 7 years ago, but for our family, every Friday after school, the rental place for movies and the Pop Shop were right next to each other, and we stocked up for the greatest weekends you could imagine. You know, good wholesome movies. Grab a bunch of soda, sit around eating popcorn, watching movies until you know Sunday night, and then you know Monday we'd return everything, and you know. I want to say they even had like a thing where we had to return the bottles, but I could be mistaken. No, no, they did because they had glass bottles. That's right. We'd have to we'd have these plastic cases full of glass bottles that we'd have to return, you know, to get our money back or to refill or whatever. And you know, my old man he didn't have any vices except soda. Couldn't, you know. He tried drinking, but you know, at 6 foot tall, 110 pounds, drinking wasn't his thing. You know, he smoked for a
One
while.
drink.
Both my parents smoked for a while, but you know that eventually led to their early demise. At least for my father, not so much my mom. But you know, sodas and movies, and you know, it was just it opened up the world for you know kids like me we could start watching these movies that our parents had told us about, but you'd have to wait until maybe it would come on regular TV, with commercials and, all that,
Yeah.
stuff. But we could, pick our own movies, go through, everything they had. And my parents would say, "Oh, yeah, that's a good movie. I saw that." And I'm like, "When the hell did you see that? I'm 10 years old. I've never seen you watch this movie." "Oh, yeah, yeah. It came out before you were born." I'm like, "How is such a thing possible?" Um, just, you name it. It was right there. And now, you can't really, since Blockbuster's gone, if you want something, you're going to pay for it, and you're either going to, add it to your collection, or you're just going to rent it, and, you know, you're going to be waiting a while. Back then, you could just go to a place and grab it. Now, if you try to go to any, Walmart or Target, which is pretty much all that's left, right? You go look for a movie, and, there's a 90% chance you're not going to find the movie you're looking for.
The one thing about this town, 10 years ago, we still had DVD shops here. You could go and go peruse and go buy DVD movies that were pre-owned or such. And, year by year, those started drying up really hard. There's still one down, I want to say, in Leon Valley. There's still another one over on the west side, but they're not in the richer environments. They're not in the environments where you have the middle class primarily residing. They're in the poorer folks section of town, and I hate to say that, but they are. Mark gets in there, says, "My dad would rent a second VCR from the video store and dub VHS from one machine to the other on the weekends for us." Smart man.
Hey, Mark. Yeah, I think we did that a couple of times too. Then eventually we got one of the old-fashioned Laserdisc players, which, to be honest, I absolutely loved those. They were huge. They had the big picture. It was like buying an album back in the day.
It's like a 18-inch or 14-inch fucking media, isn't it? 14-inch diameter. Oh, great. He'll be back. For those of you that don't remember Laserdiscs, Laserdiscs were impressive.
And, we couldn't bitch about quality or anything like that. We were just damn grateful that we could, we got a movie here. Let's watch it. We bought a Laserdisc player, and I had a milk crate full of movies. Every day after school, my friends would come over to my place because I was the only one who had one. And we'd either watch, Rush, Exit Stage Left, or Pink Floyd, The Wall, or Trading Places, which we watched a million times, crap like that, and, we were, it was, an incredible privilege back then, for us to be able to do those things, when just a couple of years before, you'd go home and, I'd run home to watch Star Blazers on UHF, if you guys know what I'm talking about. That was like the crappy channels that you had to go to a separate system on your TV to get to. I'd run home to watch that after school, or the Monkees or something like that. And TV sucked. It was just a vast wasteland of garbage, or really, really boring stuff.
It was. I gotta agree with you. I hated watching programming and that's why they call it programming. But
oh yeah, absolutely. That's what it was. I mean, there were some decent shows. You had Hogan's Heroes and things like that. That were kind of okay, but until the weekends during the Monday through Friday, nothing worth watching. From 1970-ish on to 1980. Without cable or a VCR or DVD or a Laserdisc player, there was nothing worth watching. It was just. It was so bad. It's almost amazing that the medium of watching TV survived. Had it not been for cable and the VCR, TV would have probably just been a fad. Oh, yeah, you watching TV? Oh, we're gonna go actually do stuff. But then boom, MTV rolled around and cable, and everything changed when it came to sitting in front of the idiot box.
That's what it is. Nothing's changed. Mark says laser discs were a big deal if it would play both sides without manually flipping a disc.
Yep.
Yeah, I
And
never.
just the sheer volume of things that were instantly available.
He's on mute again.
Sorry,
Yeah,
kids are getting ready to show up, and I'm trying to find extra dice for them.
looks like you're running, huh?
No, not yet. Don't know. I mean, I would like to, but at the same time, um, I just it just seems a little weird. I've dungeon mastered for kids before, but it's been a long time, and I'm not like worried that they won't enjoy themselves, etc. I mean, it's freaking D&D and pizza. I mean, you got to got to try hard to suck at that. In my opinion.
I agree. Um, Papa Cotton says, I cannot remember the last time I watched television. You guys are my entertainment. Well, I appreciate that.
Hell yeah, I can't think of anything I'd rather do other than hang out with my son, and a few friends that are still in the same state as myself. Other than hanging out with you guys, I was up till I did 6 hours after the game last night. And there was only about an hour break in between.
Yeah, I got into bed about 3 o'clock, and that was when wife's got kicking leg syndrome. So, sometimes I don't get all the sleep that I want until after she goes to work. But I just got to say that, like, that was when I realized that she was having one of her bad episodes. So,
That sucks.
yeah, it does.
Well, at least you guys get to do that thing. There's somebody I know, well, that we know that can't do that anymore, and that's got to be rough.
Yeah, that's got to be horrible.
I mean, I sleep on the couch, but I do that because of other reasons, that are similar, I guess, to his reason, but it's more of a back issue.
Yeah,
But
I
I
was
just
wondering
can't lay.
about that because I know you've beat yourself up over the years, and I'm not a chiropractor, but I can tell when somebody's got an injury going on.
Yeah. I was pretty messed up for a couple of years. They said it was going to be permanent, and that I'd never walk upright again. And I said, just fuck that. What's the point? But the human body is a miraculous invention, and it's designed to continually heal itself. No matter what. Obviously there's some things that are irreparable, but the right frame of mind, the right spirit, the right attitude and positivity go a long way
Yeah, that's the
toward.
secret of happiness in life. No matter
Yeah.
what happens to you, you got to look at it as character building.
Yeah, and I thank God for people like James L and GM Fritz recently. They really helped me focus, practicing what I preach, so to speak, when it comes to certain things. They such a positive influence in our little family of friends out here in TV land. If you guys haven't subscribed to GM's Alcove, go do it. But at the same time, don't, because then I won't get to talk to him as much because I have to deal with you guys. Right, do whatever you want, but if you want to really you know understand the essence of the joy of this hobby, GM Fritz is like the heart and soul of the hobby, in my opinion. He's just got it, perfected.
See, I like GM's Alcove. I don't watch him as much as I used to, and I think it's
Yeah, it's
mainly just
hard
the
because he
time
keeps
difference.
switching his damn schedule around. He used to be
Yeah,
on from like 1 to 4 my time, which was perfect. Now he's on like 6, 8 o'clock in the morning. My time's like 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning, and I'm like, I kind of got stuff to do. I mean, I can kind of push it off, but then it's just not as easy as I would like it to be, and it's kind of hard, But I also know that, or found out recently that he changes his schedule, like DM James at the drop of a hat. It's just up, whole new schedule, and I'm like, oh, guys, how do you guys do that?
I just found out that DM James has like 3 or 4 kids.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't realize
Mostly
that.
daughters, or all daughters, I believe.
Well, if it's all daughters, holy shit, poor man. He must have done a lot of fooling around in his teen years.
Mhm.
Whenever I meet somebody like that, I used to always hear people in my old church be like, "That's how God punishes you men. If you philander around a lot, if you go out and you do those things that makes God upset, then you'll have nothing but daughters, and you'll worry every step of the way, thinking they'll meet a man just like you."
They may not be wrong. I have no way of verifying that, but it does sound like my God's sense of humor. So I'll give it to him. I got lucky, but I also know that it's all part of the plan. It's not really luck. I mean, you guys have met my son. He's a freaking genius. He's 14 years old, and he can freaking go toe to toe with some of the best out there.
I think it's great.
Verbally. Obviously not, in a hand-to-hand combat or anything like that, because you punch him once and he collapsed like a wet noodle.
He's just 14. Come on now.
Yeah. I know.
He's got to get his man muscle on. Give him a few years.
Yeah, and he's already got more integrity and guts and courage than most grown-ups out there. Just saying,
he's your boy. I expect him to have integrity.
Yeah. Well, and he keeps me honest. Anytime I slip a little, he's like all over me, like freaking cheap on Kmart. He says he walks by and goes, "True."
Fritz
must be nice to know everything.
Mark Getzinger says Fritz has the best sounding voice on YouTube. Actually, Fritz reminds me of one of those presenters that you would find on PBS whenever Bob Ross died. And they were looking for somebody to take over the joy of painting, and they put a call out. And some local people in Champaign-Urbana got to be on the local affiliate. Maybe they were nationwide, I don't know. But we had some people that were just like 50 miles away from us that they did their own paint show for a little while. And that didn't really fly too well because everybody we'd rather watch Bob Ross reruns and watch this joker from Champaign-Urbana. That the guy was a good painter, but he was not good at talking. He was not the type of person you wanted to listen to because his choice of topics, he couldn't stay consistently on a topic long enough to have his beginning, middle, end. Calvinani says Fritz is one of the best presenters. Mark repeats he'd make a killing doing ASMR. I believe that.
Yeah, I'm going to disagree with you just a little. While I absolutely love the way GM Fritz does certain things, you're actually one of my favorites. Not going to lie. Your sense of humor and stuff like that, just the hell. Sometimes you're in the mood for one thing. Sometimes you're in the mood for another thing. But somebody out there, I'm not going to say who, says you have a great radio voice, and I'm going to agree wholeheartedly with them.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, I'm surprised about that, but I appreciate it. I was starting off in radio, and
there you go.
After a few weeks of being an intern, it turned into this is really not enough money. I need. Can we do some remotes or something for me to get some sponsor support? And they're like, no. I'm like, okay, here's your microphone back. And that didn't work out too well as I wanted it to, but for a little while I was Seamus.
Hey, we got another sub. Cool. We're at 374. 126 away from that big giveaway. And then that'll be halfway to catching up to your ass.
hey, you've got a little ways to go, but I'm going to do everything I can to make sure that we get the right amount of exposure aimed towards you. And when I say right amount of exposure, I tell people all the time, listen, if you want to see some wholesome father and son stuff, go watch Shadow and Son, because you got this guy that he's kind of not believing that his life is this good. He's got a real good 14-year-old kid, and his kid's not causing him any grief. He's not causing him any trouble at school. He's gifted, and what I mean by gifted, he's a very intelligent young man. And the father and him do these wonderful crafting videos all the time, and it's just like you're in your teen years, and you're in art class, and your art teacher turns on Bob Ross. But instead of Bob Ross wholesomeness, you get wholesomeness from Shadow and Son, because Shadow's there the entire time policing his thoughts. You can watch him try to avoid certain adult things because his son wants to be a priest or wants to be a saint. His son wants to be a paladin. And it's so cool and kind of funny to watch, because Shadow's over here. He's kind of been places. He's done things. And he can't really talk about that. My son's around. Can't. Let's
Well,
talk about.
it's not just him. The lady behind the camera. If there's decades of my life she will never hear about ever. You could put all the sodium pentothal from True Lies into my ass. Nope. Sorry, you don't get to know that. Sorry, you don't ask. I told her that when we met. There's whole big old chunks of time that you know. Don't ask me about the '90s. Don't ask me about certain things. Don't ask me about etc. And she learned a long time. Okay, not gonna do it. And hell, my son knows more than she does on some things. If you can imagine that. I mean, he's a boy. He's going to be a man. He's got to know this crap. And someday, I won't be here. And if she still is, it's kind of his job to look after her. And she don't need to know that crap. Women don't need to know that crap.
Yeah.
I know there's women out there that think they're tough, etc. But at the end of the day, they're still wired differently. You know, and,
Mhm.
and by the creator or whatever you want to call it. And there's a reason for that. There's two. That there are two. Otherwise, there's only a need for one. Like in what was that movie we were just talking about? Enemy Mine. That species that just self propagates, so to speak.
Hey, Groggery's in here from yesterday's game. He finally
What's happening,
decided to
dude?
show up. Groggery's like, I love you. I want to touch your butt. All right, that's for those of you that weren't in the Navy, you won't understand that level of camaraderie. And I'm saying that.
Yeah. Like last week on Gatekeepers, what the fuck was Travis? All I did was put on a suit, a nice shirt and tie, and he's like, I'm not going to repeat what he said, but I'm just like, okay. I mean, he said funny stuff like that before, but I just trying to play the part. If I'm going to host something, I'm going to try to do like my son does, and class it up a little. Not saying that we're not classy, fuck those people. No, just try to just kind of just make it a little special, at least from my perspective.
Yes.
When you wear when you wear a tie, you act a certain way.
Yeah,
And
your entire mood shifts depending on your outfit. I'll say that much.
yeah, and I just wanted to do that, but I didn't think I was going to get that reaction. Hell, even my wife didn't say anything like what he said. But it's all in good fun. And speaking of the next gatekeepers or table breakers, when we talk about that thing that I suggested, which one do you think it should be?
I prefer the idea of us talking about character death and why we need to have it in games.
No, right. Which show though? You think it's a gatekeeper, which I kind of think it is,
I do.
or do you think it's more of a table breakers?
I think it's more of a gatekeeper, but watch everybody else say, no, let's do that on table breakers. Okay, fine,
Mhm.
whatever.
Yeah, as long as I get credit for the idea, I'm cool because I've been talking about it for about a month now. Trying to fish around and see what people think. Because I know what certain people are going to say.
Yeah.
And while I understand it, maybe we can during that time, at least disguise that ugly truth a little better, so people like me, don't think the way I do about it because you know it's just it turns it into something that it shouldn't be, in my opinion. You know what I mean?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, barely.
Okay. Okay. I'm just for some odd reason. I think I got. I think I got a little bit of weak spot of the internet. I'm going to
Oh
pan
yeah,
around
I
real
have.
quick. I got to show Groggery some of the new miniatures that we got. Got this creeping bat over here, which should give you nightmares. These two drakes, serving girl, dancing girl.
Well, hey, hold off on the townsfolky miniatures for a bit, will you?
Okay. I got. Let me get the bard over here with the townsfolky miniatures.
No, I mean not showing them, but buying them.
I'm not because this is printed off from Chris. Chris printed off a whole bunch of figs for me.
I
Writing,
really like those steeds with the miniature. I know they look goofy as hell,
yeah,
but I
but
really
I know
like
what they're
that
used
concept
for. You want to have
where you
something
can.
mounted.
Yep, that's a great idea. I mean, it looks, silly, but until you can 3D print a mounted and unmounted figure, you know what I mean? Uh, it's genius.
Bowsette, here's the bat. I don't know if you can see that or not. Come on, focus.
I'm gonna have to show you some giant bats I picked up. You probably will never be able to find them again, but they're pretty freaking incredible. They're actually flying bats that are about a 3-inch wingspan that I got from Arduin, Emperor's Choice. They may still have them on their website, but I seriously doubt it. And I don't think they're doing miniatures right now because they're kind of working on the next version of the game. Which one of these days you're gonna have to read some Arduin just so you can get an idea of when I say it, because most people, they hear that word, they either just they have no idea or they like have this vague memory of something, from 40 years ago that was kind of a thing but then disappeared, even though it didn't really disappear entirely. Let's just put it this way: it's the most extensively written about world setting ever printed. If you really don't want to make a world on your own and you want one that's got every single piece of information you could ever want, Arduin's your boy.
Okay, Groggery. Here's Groggery in his medium-sized form. Here's the new Vladimir. And then here's Big Grog.
That's freaking awesome, dude. That I'm so jealous.
So whenever you get a chance to come over and paint, Grog, come on over. I'm off tomorrow. I'll let you know. I'll let you know if I gotta go somewhere, do something. The wife is wanting to do something, but then she's like, "Oh, I have no money." I'm like, "Okay, well, I want to paint all day."
I like the way you put that. She has no money and you don't even offer.
What the fuck is gonna be better than sitting here and painting figs? Fuck.
Well,
Most
well,
relaxing thing I've got
I
my life.
you know what? Does she have a hobby that's similar?
She does her own crafting until she can't sit down any further because of body aches and pains.
Gotcha. That sucks.
I've
Because
got a, I don't
yeah,
know if that's
because I
Loki
mean,
or
I could picture the two of you, getting old and gray and sitting around the table, doing crafts together, completely opposite, but
Grog. If you want to come over today, man, come on over. I'm not going to stop being online. Hell, you'll be here. We're gonna talk offensively until YouTube boots us off. And then he sent me some Magus figures, which I could see these being complete Maguses because they've got the spell shield. Kind of like these. I don't know. I need to paint more figs because I had a reasonably cleared off thing, and then I get like 50 new figures from Chris, and I'm like, ah, shit. You know that feeling? You almost were done doing something, and you're getting ready to move on to your next portion of your journey. I have more. Groggery's like, let me finish the dishes and I'll head over. Awesome. We'll be online for about another half hour, hour and a half. I don't know, but I'm wanting to paint. That's what I want to do. You guys see my hobby. This is what I do when I'm wanting to have relaxation. And damn it, I don't. There's been too many points in my life where I didn't have that, and so when I get a chance to sit down and do this, I jump right on it. This is not better than sex, but I will say that I can do the sex and I can enjoy this. The wife and I we have our life. It's kind of nice.
so basically, heaven for you would be two separate rooms.
Yeah. What's wrong with that? I'm completely okay with that.
No. I'm right there with you. Except I also have a door out, which is weird because I was talking to DM James last night, which kind of bugged me. I really got to talk to him about that. Were you there?
What were you guys talking about? I might have been there. I was playing Dagger for about 3 hours.
I wanted to pick his brain about heaven, and he's like, got no idea. I'm like, well, wait a minute, what?
You're an Orthodox Catholic. How can you not have any idea what heaven's like?
Well, that's just it. I mean, that's my whole, philosophy is, I want to think about that. When I daydream, I want to think about that, not a lot of other things. If that makes any sense, I don't know.
Yeah,
maybe it's just me.
Oh, the entire. We're gonna get into religion for a second, guys. So for those of you that don't like religion talk, get the fuck out. But for me, Christianity and Catholicism pretty well intertwined. The entire basis of that religion is you having a regretful heart and not wanting to repeat something you've done before that might have made you diminished in God's eyes. And therefore, whenever you're done with this life and you've had that regretful heart and you accepted Christ as your Savior and you completely believe that He was resurrected after 3 days of being within the tomb, He moved the boulder, or an angel moved the boulder, and He got out and He preached again for another 30 days after people were like, aren't you dead? He's like, no. And the thing is that our entire religion is based on that belief. You submit to that belief because in our world ruled by science, physics, and ugly gore, if you get into a car wreck, you die and there's no coming back from it. Your face is broken up against the steering wheel. Your body's crushed between the seat and seat belt and the steering column, and that's it. You're gone. You're not gonna come back from that. But here's a guy that he was hung literally on a cross, and that is now the entire symbol of the religion of that faction of that religion. The cross, which if I was Christ, I would never want to see a fucking cross again. That
Yeah.
guy's got a lot. He's got a lot of character. Sorry, Bowsette. I didn't mean to chase you out, hon. But if I was Christ, I would never want to see a cross. I'd be like, take that off. Take that necklace off. Hide that cross. I was there for 3 days. I can't even masturbate right anymore because of that stupid cross. It ruined my wrists.
Not a vampire, but just saying.
Yeah. And it just, the entire religion is we are in this because we want to have the ability to be with our family and friends that we had on earth. And therefore you all try for the we're going for heaven. We're going for it. We're trying for it. And we try to be decent people, and we don't want to raise our kids and our family members that are younger than us to be little shithead assholes. So we try to show them the right way after we were assholes in our 20s and 30s if we made it that far. And we really don't want to go to the bad place. The bad place that's
Exactly. I could understand, like, there is no heaven, but you're trying to avoid the bad place, and when you die, if you're good, you just don't exist. But instead, there's this completely alternative option of going to the good place. Well, what's the good place like? Well, it's so good you can't imagine it.
I can imagine some pretty good things. So
Exactly.
I always practice that heavenly imagination. What's heaven like? Is it nothing but angels looking like Farrah Fawcett with D-cup breasts, wandering around in string bikinis? And if you want, they ask you for a nickel and they give you a blowjob or a tit job. Is it a bunch of dudes looking like Brad Pitt making the ladies happy? And they're like, well, don't you want your husband to look like Brad Pitt? And they make you look like Brad Pitt just to make your wife happy because she wants to get wet in heaven. I can't imagine a bad thing happening in heaven. I imagine that there's food there, but you don't get fat eating it. You've got a svelte body like what you had in your mid-20s or early 20s, if you had that. If you didn't get buff and big into your 30s and you really appreciated what you look like in your 30s, you get that as your form. You get to wander around, and that's part of your avatar. I don't imagine that heaven would be a place where there'd be like a lot of remembrances and dwelling on pain. I don't see it. And that's why I'm a Christian, because if not, I'd be a fucking Norseman. If I wasn't born into Christianity, if I didn't have family that took me to Tennessee and I was there at a church listening to this crap, since I was 2 years old. And if we really truly had quote unquote free will and Christianity wasn't a thing that my family was bred in, because we've got preachers in our lineage, I'd be a Norseman. And I don't mean to chase off my viewers. I love Bowsette. I think she's a great person. I think there's a lot of crap that she went through, and that's probably like a lot of people that have problem with religion have had a traumatic event in their life. They're not past.
Well, see, here's the thing. The biggest thing that the church or whatever has done wrong is the actual. Okay, we've got ample descriptions of the bad place.
Yeah.
But we got none of the good place. I mean, if you want to sell something, okay, you advertise the good aspects. Well, you get to go to heaven. Okay, well, what's heaven? Well, you'll find out when you get there. What? You're kidding me, right? You can't do better than that?
I can imagine a lot of cool things. I can imagine sensations.
For me, it's pretty simple. I could sum it up with 2 words. Silver Surfer. For me, if I get in, even if I get the cheap seats, my eternal reward would be going to all these stars and planets that God apparently made. And for me, it seems like a pretty good reason, considering what I want to do when I get there, is just planet to planet, going from star to star, and even if there's nobody there, just, surfing through, or maybe my angel wings are doing it, whatever, going from planet to planet, exploring God's creation. It seems kind of weak to think that he made all that crap and there's nothing there. To me, it sounds more interesting that God went and made all this stuff. We'll never get there, but when we die, we can get there. And, maybe you don't want to go and travel. Maybe you got, a more, simple idea of heaven for you. But I don't know, after about 1 trillion years, I think maybe I'd be willing to, dip my toes into intergalactic exploration, or time travel or something like that, as opposed to what do we get? We get old dudes on clouds with harps and cherubs as our, visual aid of what heaven is. Yeah, no, that's kind of boring. So for so many people, I get it that they're like, you're not selling me on this concept. You got to do better. Well, how about that? How about the churches and the religions out there try and put a little bit more effort into it and kind of, I get it. Back in the old days, they couldn't even possibly comprehend, but we can now. We can kind of comprehend more than, what they did in the way of that. So that's me. And, sorry if I scared any of you guys away from my channel or, bummed you out or, talked about something. But, think about it for a second. If heaven's a real thing, maybe it is for you and you just don't realize it yet. Maybe there's something better than, just these 100 years on Earth. And, give it a try. Think about it. There's, maybe there is something that you'd like, but you can't do it yet. But, maybe later you can.
As Chozo says, well, hold on. First off, Chozo said that people in here like Darth Enos, then Grumpy's like, I find free will and predestination are not as we understand them. Just because God knows you're going to do it doesn't mean you didn't choose to do it. You do something sometimes just for no other reason that I've not tried this yet. Let me try this. And a lot of us don't choose to sin that way, but that's just kind of how that happens. And as Chozo says, as a Muslim, my religion is defined to non-Muslims mostly by terrorist groups. Yeah, and that's the sad thing because Catholics have had a lot of black eyes over the past few years. I think you're kind of, you're not seeing that aspect of it. And not all Christians are great either. There's bad apples in every religion. I've met a lot of great Muslims here in San Antonio. I didn't have that opportunity where I lived before. All I knew about Muslims was what was on CNN, Fox News, MSNBC. And Grumpy says the church hopped onto fire and brimstone 600 years ago, and here we are. They're still hopping on that. They're still doing that shit.
Yeah, the old expression, you get more flies with molasses than you do with vinegar. How about stop peddling the fear porn and start using the carrot instead of the stick?
But the thing is that religion is a lot like entertainment. You've got a lot of people that have embedded themselves in various religions or in the religion of religion itself. And all they've done well is learned how to make people divided further among their beliefs, which is why when they realized they could do that to the rest of the world through entertainment industry or through jobs or whatever, they just took those lessons that they had there and they went to work. And now here you have fucking entertainment, fucking board games, movies have been conquered by people that do nothing better but segregate things. And the thing is that I had to move to San Antonio and start meeting different people. When I was working for Uber, I met a few Muslims and they started using me as a regular driver. And we had discussions because we'd take them up to Georgetown a lot. That's like a 90-minute trip one way. So we discussed religion because fuck it, right? We're all in the same car. I'm going to get you there safely. Let's talk about this. I'll keep that on screen. That's a lot of text there from Grumpy. So we're talking, and I learned that like a lot of Muslims that are here are pretty decent people. There's a few assholes, and they tell you, like, you don't want to hang out with this guy here. You don't want to really do this. This guy's a Shia, and that's just kind of different from our religion. But
cool, Grumpy.
They gave me the skinny on Muslims, and when I was in service, we had a few guys we bumped into when we were overseas, and they were like really smart but illiterate. And overseas, it's kind of different. You get a lot of guys that are from Africa that they aren't taught to read. They're schooled at the madrasas. They're told you need to know everything I tell you. That's it. And therefore, it's really not their choice to learn that way, but it's what they're born in. And as long as they're being fed good information, it's fine. But you get a few bad apples in any religion, and it just turns it to shit. Grumpy has it really well. Muslims are not the 9/11 hijackers. Those Jews were completely evil. I'm not at war with Muslims, but powers and principalities work against humanity everywhere on Earth. And there's no monolithic all bad, you know. And the thing is that I believe that evil is an actual intelligence. I believe Satan is an actual thing, an actual thinking, feeling, super intelligence. I think that's our reality, and it can throw on whatever guise it wants to.
Yeah, I have to agree with you there.
They you know, I mean, there's some religions that they call Satan the Great Deceiver, and I completely am on board with that. And I think that there's been a lot of times where, you know, we chase a dragon of our own, and only to get to it, only to find out that, like, the goal we had really isn't all it's cracked up to be. And we've given years or months of our lives, or some of us gave decades, pursuing something that all it did was just weather us down. It took off our edge. It took away our youth. And there are times where you find yourself where you've got to figure out, what are you really in this for? Or are you going to give up? And that's where your character comes into play. Your individual character comes into play when you are beaten. And how are you going to react? And how are you going to become a better person than you were when you started on your first initial quest? Grumpy, old Ninja Kintaro. There's too much bad info everywhere, and Satan loves to spread it. Yeah. This Chozo. That's part of the reason why Islamic terror groups are so prolific. They convince the illiterate people who can't really read the holy text for themselves. And that's the thing. You have some bad apples there. I mean, most imams really don't want to have a bunch of suicide bombers. You know, that there might be passages of the Quran that are written certain ways. There are violent texts, violent verses and surahs within the Quran. There are. But I don't believe that 1/3 of the planet that is brought up and practicing or claims to be Muslim, I don't believe 1/3 of the planet has evil within their hearts and wants to slaughter everything that's not thinking like them. And of all things to fucking fight for, I think religion is a horrible fight, because all we're fighting for is to see how we really die and what happens afterwards. Why not fight for the good shit? Why not fight for the things that you got to cling to while you're stuck here on this planet, like wheat, oil, fucking coffee? Fight for the things that are make your family happy tomorrow.
And safe.
Yeah.
I don't know. Sorry to bring the conversation to this path, but it's just bugging me, and I just wanted to bounce the idea off someone. Someone else's opinion I respect, and you were there, and I wanted to see if you had remembered that, because it's just, you know, I love James like, you know, brother, and I just, you know, he's a big, you know, religious guy, and I'm like, but that doesn't make any sense. I mean, maybe he just didn't want to talk about it, or, you know, whatever, you know, not saying anything bad about it at all, you know, but I mean, you know, it's just always in, you know, a big chunk of my brain, you know, that everything is just such a microscopic, temporary little aspect of forever.
And I agree with what Grumpy's saying right here. There's violent verses in all religious texts. Religion's not the cause of all those old wars. Men with an agenda to use it and bend it and beat it into other people is the cause of all those old wars, and continues to be a source of strife today. Exactly. I got to thank the Muslims for one specific contribution to my life. First off, coffee. Fucking coffee.
I knew you were going to say that. Yeah.
The myth is that in Ethiopia, hundreds of years ago, this Ethiopian farmer was watching his goats, and he noted that after days of watching these goats eat this berry, they would get real hyped up and start jumping even more. They must have been like those angry, not angry, but those real hyper goats that like they just kind of jump places. Like they start scampering up on the fence, and then they jump on from the fence to the top of your suburban, and then from your suburban they jump on the top of your hut or house, and then they're just like sitting there, looking at you, and they've got the high ground. They're trying to give you that Ben Kenobi moment to Anakin. And I gotta admit, like that Muslim farmer, that he decided he would go try the berries, and first he tried them naked, just off the vine, and they were kind of okay. Yeah, I can kind of see this. Maybe if I add fire and I roast this, it might change it. And so he changed it a bit, and then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh my God, this is amazing." And he figures out that if you grind up the beans, it'll absorb into the water a lot better. And he made it. He made the first coffee, and so it spread around the entire Muslim peninsulas and the Saudi Arabian peninsula, and the east coast of Africa. Coffee shops were everywhere. That was like their thing. They didn't have art because in the Muslim societies way back then, you're not supposed to be a fan of artists or poets because those people used to always make fun of Muhammad. And therefore, Muhammad put those guys to death, a lot of them. And you had only like a few things you could really do in Muslim society. And one thing is you have coffee shops. It's very, I look at early Muslim society a lot like I look at Japan now.
Isn't music also verboten?
Yeah. There's not a lot of music that's allowed.
I can't get on board with that. Sorry, guys.
If you've got a female Muslim singer, she can only be attended to in the audience by Muslim women. That's the only audience. Can't have a guy in the audience. So, and Fitzgerald says, "Did you know Bahamut was created as anti-Islamic propaganda? I thought it was either Bahamut or Baal. I wasn't certain as to which. I know Baal makes quite a bit of notations, especially in Second Kings, but I was wondering about Bahamut because that's just something that seemed a little bit more modern than Baal. But you have this guy that he discovers coffee, and it spreads all along the eastern coast of Africa, goes into Saudi Arabia, and at the time the Crusades are going on, and the fucking Catholics were in charge of the Western society, and finally this gets a hold of some coffee, and they brew it for the Pope. Did I say something? I didn't mean to slip up. I'm not a Catholic, by the way. So they're brewing up coffee for the Pope, and like of the two things that these two different worlds can agree on, like I think I need to extend a hand of friendship to Muslims out there for the fact that, like, despite the fact we're from completely different societies and upbringings, like, you guys brought us coffee. You have no idea how much more productive I am as an individual. And coffee has impacted my life in such a way that I now carry the shit with me wherever I go. I have a thermos that my customers that know me, whenever they see me somewhere, if I'm fueling up in the morning, "Hey Bruce, I was getting ready to get some coffee at this Pilot or at this Travel America at this Fine Hook. You got any coffee in your thermos?" Yeah, I do.
Well, just be careful, like all things, moderation. And if I could ever give you one piece of advice when it comes to coffee, not on an empty stomach.
It's diuretic. Okay, it is a diuretic. It is very good at what it is. I don't have if my doctor, even if my doctor tells me like, "Hey, here's some pills you need to take on an empty stomach, I still have a soup and salad for it.
Okay,
And
good.
I'll eat that. I don't take anything on an empty stomach.
Good for
I
you.
always put a little bit of foundation on there, just 300 to 400 calories. That's it. Let me get a message off to the wife for text.
Okay, because I'm probably going to have to hit the road in a moment to at least meet and greet with the kids that are coming over, find out if I'm dungeon mastering or not. If I am, I won't be able to come back. But if not, I'll probably hang out with you some more unless, you got other things to do. It's kind of just
I'll have Gregory come over.
Cool.
Gregory,
I might go upstairs and do some painting too, but I kind of got to keep an eye on the kids, so probably not. And they want to use my miniatures, of course.
Sure. Appreciate you coming by and stopping in and talking with us. And even though we kind of derailed into religion a little bit, I don't mind that, because I think if we talk about religion, we're not going to be as fucked up if we at least explain what we believe to each other. Unlike there's a popular idiom, there's a dumb idiom out there that says we don't talk about religion or politics. Fuck you. That mentality ruined everything in Western society.
Yeah. Those are two of my four top favorite topics. So, yeah, 5 favorite topics.
And I hate that.
Sex, rock and roll, guns, games. Okay, 6 or 7 favorite topics, but religion and politics are up there. And with my son, those are his 2 favorite topics. Despite his mom telling him over and over and over, you can't talk about those ever. Then how do you learn about those? You know what? There's only designated people you can talk to that with. How do you find out who those are? He's certainly not going to find, that in the classroom with any substance, until he's out of the classroom.
Well, I want you to have a good day, Shadow. I'll be looking forward to hearing from you tonight. The wife is getting ready to get off work in another hour or two, so I won't be here forever. But
no, it's always cool hanging out with you, man.
Yeah,
and one of these days, God willing, you, me, Omanal, and all the other Texas gamers are going to freaking have a nice long freaking meeting of the minds, as it were. Maybe a game session or 20,000. I hope, because I cannot do another couple years here, man. It's a vast desert wasteland, literally and figuratively.
Well, there's
beautiful sunsets, but that don't get you through the day.
No, it doesn't. And if Texas goes too blue, there's a few places that are retreat locations. One would be Oklahoma. The other would be Missouri. Those 2 states are heavily in the right mindset and right of center mindset. And then the other place would be Tennessee, which is really a big battleground right now because you have places like Nashville, which are blue little shitholes. And they've always been really blue, mind you, but that town is getting a lot of, like, the Austin crowd is moving towards Nashville because they realize they don't like Texas. Texas has offended them by becoming a anti-abortion mindset state, at least from the doctor's standpoint.
Tell her to hold on.
Standpoint. And so you have a lot of people moving to Tennessee right now. Tennessee's a great state. I love Tennessee. I lived in Georgia in the formative years when I was like 4 or 5 or so, and it was something that, like, I got stuck with. Whenever I want to go on vacation, I go there. So I go to Tennessee and I go drive around Chattanooga, and I'd go up to a lot of places around that area. And a lot of people, they look at that and like, there's nothing around Chattanooga. Like, you haven't been there. If you go there, you'll understand what I mean, because it's such a green, verdant, rolling, fresh mountain area. The Appalachians are just beautiful. It's not like the Rocky Mountains where you have a lot of there's a lot of greenery in California, but you really, like, those Rocky Mountains are huge. They're tall, and
yeah, they are.
The infrastructure in California is different than, say, the East Coast. If you drive in either location, you'll see the differences in mindsets of how they constructed the interstates and how they constructed everything. But I gotta say that I love Tennessee quite a bit, and Georgia as well. But I'm a big Tennessee fan. Chattanooga, Nashville, Murfreesboro, that area is beautiful. But I'd rather just stay in Texas because that's where I'm at. I'm almost 50, and I'm of the mindset that this might be the place to set up the fight, because we need to have our gun rights here. We need to have our mindset for
Yeah, open
here.
carry is my number one priority when it comes to moving. And
We
people say, well, people say, concealed carry, and I tell them, I seriously doubt I'm going to be able to conceal carry my Desert Eagle. Sorry, just saying.
Well, I'd rather you conceal it, just for the fact that if something starts to happen, you are immediately identified as a threat to be removed. If you have it concealed or it's under your shirt and it's still printing, but you're not facing that direction, they can't see it.
Yeah.
So
During the winter and fall, sure, no problem. During the summer, I don't see that. I mean, I got other stuff, but it's just kind of a humorous thing to say.
And I really like the idea of everybody concealed carry. We're back to that here in Texas. We are a constitutional carry state, and that makes me really happy.
Yeah.
There are places you cannot go while you conceal carry. You're not going to go into a bar.
It makes total sense. I mean, that's just like, beyond common sense.
There's some people that common sense not that common on. You'd be sadly surprised.
I know. Yeah, I know.
But I do like the fact that you can conceal carry everywhere, and that's pretty much what I do. I've got a new everyday carry that I'm not going to produce on camera, just for the fact that I don't think I need to show off my small gun collection. 3 guns is not a collection, but it's a nice little piece. It'll get me out of a jam if I get in a jam, and that's all that matters. For those of you that don't know about Shadow and Sun, I'm going to put his link in the comments here so you guys can go check him out.
I'd love to hear from you guys. Even if we can agree to disagree. My son and I have a lot to offer in the way of game related stuff. We're just gonna leave it at that. And if we could teach somebody something new, then it was a good day. And we're going to continue doing this. And shameless plug, when we hit 500 subs, we got some pretty spiffy giveaways. And if we can do that before Christmas, that'll make it even better, because then we'll have a Christmas giveaway, because it's time to start giving back to all these great people that have given us so much and so many countless hours of just, peace, tranquility, camaraderie, friendship, all the things that make life worth living. And, it's time to start, paying it forward.
Fair enough. Thank you for stopping by, my friend. And if there's anything you need, get in touch with me.
Cool. I appreciate it. Right back at you, man.
Have a great day with the kids.
You never know. And yeah, I do have to get going, because they're lining up outside the door, ready to roll some dice. And I can't wait to be, at least near that, throw in my 2 cents and whip up some pizza for these kids. God knows they deserve every minute of happiness they can get after the last 2 years. So everybody out there in TV land, thanks for, sticking around and playing along with us. And, have a great day. Enjoy the rest of the weekend. Hopefully you guys got the full 2 days, today and tomorrow, off. And, like I always say at the end of my show, play the games you love with the people you love, and see you guys real soon.
Thank you, Shadow.
I'll talk to you real soon, buddy. Bye.
Thank you. Right. Yeah, we aren't fortified. We here in Texas, Grumpy, are not fortifiable enough to go blue. And I really, as much as I talk about Tennessee or Missouri or Oklahoma, I really just need to stand my ass here. I like it here quite a bit. James L says, "Come destroy you, Coonsy. We can't even vote for the Democrats." This Chozo says, "I live in Georgia. I haven't gotten out much since the gun flew, though." I used to go to Georgia quite a bit. I went there in '93 for the first time and went to Dragon Con, and that was different. The underground was absolutely just fun to walk around in, and it was different because we don't have the underground in a lot of other cities. For those that don't know Atlanta, Georgia, the underground's kind of like a retail market, that's literally under the downtown portion of the city. It's kind of neat. And the problem with Atlanta is that you have a very aggressive driving group that operates on the I want to say the 65 or the 360, whatever, the loop of Atlanta. Just be a pro driver and you'll be fine. Grumpy's like, don't let the weirdos chase you out of your own town. No, I already did that once in Illinois, and I really didn't like it, but I didn't have a choice. There wasn't a job to go to. Here, I'm pretty much stuck for life. If I want to be in my current trade, which I love the money and I like the opportunities, I can keep myself busy with this. I'm a real fan of the idea of staying in Texas anyway, because he talks about the sunsets there. There's places out west of town that are really nice to go to in hill country, and hill country is probably my absolute favorite place to drive, just because of all the various meandering turns and locations that you could go to. There's campsites, there's places to take your dog if you've got a dog, which I don't have one yet, but every time I go there, I seem to find a dog. Went to the dog park a few days back with the wife, because that's something we do for fun. We just go there. We go there to walk and talk with the pups and such, and other people's dogs come up to me, and it pisses off the owners because the dogs will come right up to me, and I just give them pets. That oh, you're cute, buddy. You're a cute boy. And start giving them the attention they need. Hit the spot right behind the back of the ear, scratch them right there at the base of the spine, and the dog suddenly becomes a lap dog. You have a Pyrenees that wants to jump in my lap and just have me there all day, and the owner's looking at me like, what are you doing to my dog? You just gotta scratch him here and here. He turns into this. My dog's. I've had my dog for 8 months. I've never known this. How do you know? Are you a doctor? No. I just know dogs pretty well. That's all. And it seems to happen every time we go to the dog park, or every time there's a dog around here in the complex. I get pretty much approached by the dog. The dog's like, "Will you pet me?" Yeah, they're like, "Hello, human friend," and the owners are weird. They don't understand that dogs have a personality sensor. Every dog that you meet, they've already evaluated you. They already judge you by your scent and by your demeanor, and they've got about 30 things running through their head. If that's pass and let's go find somebody else, or oh my God, this person smells great and he's got a good gait on him. He looks healthy. Let me get this guy some attention. It really makes people weird whenever you've pumped out their septic tanks, whenever you've done the work for them, and suddenly the dog smells all of the family is on you, and the dog's like, I knew you were one of us. And it demands to get over and have you pet it, because it just doesn't remember you petting it, but it smells like everybody else in the house. And that is a precious moment that the homeowner doesn't forget. Like, yeah, my German Shepherd of like 9 years goes to the pumper guy, the septic pumper, and the septic pumper guy should be getting chewed into bits because the dog is a trained dog. We talk German to him, and here the German's coming out of the pumper's mouth, and he's talking to my dog in German. He's giving the dog all the commands, and he knows my dog, but I've never seen this guy before in my life. Well, yeah, it doesn't take a whole lot of education. You can figure out the 50 words you need to know in German pretty easily. Austin, Grumpy says, it's all good. Austin can stay weird as long as it wants. Do not let Texas turn into California. We're trying not to, man. I really enjoy the aspects of Texas that I've experienced, the good and the bad. Austin is its own thing. I used to go up there a lot for Uber, because that was just, if you were broke and you had a car and you had an Uber account, if you went to Austin, you'd come back with money. as long as you didn't wreck your freaking car, you know. And that's a danger anywhere you go nowadays in Texas, because you have everybody that's not from Texas in Texas driving in Texas, not knowing how others drive. But that's where I would go if I realized that there wasn't a whole lot of activity going on in San Antonio. And during the COOF, I didn't do that because I had started my career as a septic guy in plumbing trade. At my job, I found out today we just got my books in so I can start studying for my journeyman test. So I'll be putting in 3 years in January, and soon I'll have the paperwork ready so I can actually do work on an ATU system, which that is not fun. For those of you that know what an ATU system is a septic tank that is required to have a battery power box on it or electrical power into it, because you poop, it goes into one chamber, then it goes into another chamber when that fills up, and it's always filled up. Within 10 days of being pumped out, it fills back up again. But it's not full, it's just operating, and that's how they're designed to operate. They fill up with solids in the first tank. The second tank is where a lot of oxygen is at, and so what filters in there is broken down before it hits a chlorine wall. Then the chlorine tank, the chlorinator or chlorination tank, you have that just kind of stay there until it reaches a certain height, at which point the pump has these little sensors that when they float up to a certain height, they pump out all the water into the yard through the sprinkler system. Most of these sprinkler systems are set to go off between 12 midnight and 4 a.m. There's a lot of moving parts on these things, and the county has mandated new construction has to have these, unless you have a lot of money that you grease the palms with of the engineer and surveying team, that you can get an old conventional tank, which is only powered by gravity and pressure, and it's desirable. Thank you, Grumpy. Grumpy says, may you wreck that test and score what you need to. You totally will. I will. It's going to take a little bit of studying. I'll be about 2 months into it and then go take the test and find out that I passed. Be a journeyman plumber. I won't need to drive that big stinky truck, but you know what? Still rather drive that big stinky truck because I can bring in more money to my boss with that big stinky truck than I can as a plumber. And the reason I say that is that my company is afloat today because I drive that big stinky truck. You look at the fact that a lot of plumbers a lot of the jobs we do are drain calls, which are maybe $395, sometimes only $195. Whereas I go out for my services, I charge for about $400 to $500 for about an hour and a half of work. And yeah, it cost me about $500 to fill up the truck full of fuel. Diesel's still at $4.69 over here. When I went out earlier today, it was at $4.69. So my operating cost every 3 days is $500, not including my insurance or what I get paid wage-wise, which is actually a lot better than I've ever been paid before. Well, I can do this plumbing work now on the side as a journeyman. Not on the side, I mean, I don't need the truck, but if my boss needs me to go out and address a clog, or if he needs me to go out and just fix a solenoid in a pump system or replace some sensors, I could do that. As long as I properly diagnose it and I can get the system working properly again, it'll be fine. Hopefully you guys are enjoying yourselves today. I really enjoyed having Shadow on here. I know some of you didn't like the religious talk, but I think people need to discuss that more, because you need to discuss with people your morality. You need to discuss with people why you believe the way you believe. I like the way I believe because, it's, when you're done with this here, you're reunited with family and friends and popular, not not the Bible, but popular literature has told us that our dogs are waiting for us in heaven. You know, as much as I love my family and friends, I would probably abandon a lot of it just to have like my dog Harry back. And that sounds crazy, but I used to have this little schnauzer, and this dog and I were pretty good friends with each other. He was my little buddy. We would go everywhere. I had a 2001 manual shift F-150. One of the last years I ever saw a manual shift standard in a truck. And got that truck, and then Harry came into my life in 2009. I had him for 2 years, and we went pretty much a lot of places in the state of Illinois together. We went to Sterling, Illinois, went to Decatur, and other places. It was a good time. I had that dog, and there wasn't a lot of, you know, heart to heart talking communications, but with dogs it's a different thing. When you have a friend who's a pooch. And Harry, we found out that Harry had real issues with his gums. So once I got his teeth fixed after 2 surgeries, I went into debt for that dog. I went and got loans for this dog. And after I got him his teeth, most of his teeth had to get pulled. He still had his chewing teeth. Well, we're out walking one day, and I live by the railroad tracks. Didn't really bother me much. I occasionally would get a train from Peoria to Bloomington or vice versa. And at the tracks, there's sometimes you have rats that live there, and we live in a heavy grain area. There's not a lot of rats near where I live, but if you walk down the tracks about a half mile, there's a grain elevator in Deer Creek. And that was where the majority of the hunting for this dog was at, because he would pull me to the grain elevator every time we'd go for a walk. He'd be like, let's go across the tracks and walk across the convenience store lot, and then we'll go down over here, and then I can find myself some chewy chew toy. For those of you that don't have a terrier, you might be wondering why all of the dog toys squeak. Well, I'm going to tell you that if you ever have a terrier or a terrorist dog to the rodent community, you have one of these dogs and it finds rodents just absolutely hateful. There's an inborn hatred that these dogs have for rodents. And rodents, when they're getting attacked by Westies or Schnauzers or Jack Russell Terriers, rats squeak really loud for about 3 seconds. That's about as long as it takes for your dog to give it the death rattle from the muzzle. And then there goes the rat, tossed away because it's a broken toy. It's no good anymore. So I'm going to tell you that if you're bored and you have a terrier dog and you live in a country environment, you won't be bored for long. In fact, most of my friends that live in country environments, they're never bored. Rural environments offer you a lot of stimulus to pay attention to. And you can do things that most of the time other people won't be able to. Now, in the city where I live, I can go for a walk whenever I like. We have a nice park not too far from here. But in the country, you just kind of already do that. You know, you have to walk a half mile to your neighbor's house. You have to walk down to the creek to do your fishing. You have a place at your deer stand that you have on the farmer's property that he's allowed you to build. So for those of you that don't live in the country that are curious about it, I always recommend that. You might develop a new hobby for yourself. If you don't get into the hobbies that I have, maybe this would interest you. Maybe you walking for 20 minutes a day would help out your heart. Maybe you climbing up into your deer stand to survey you don't want to kill deer. You've got a deer stand. You've got a little watchtower you've got set up on your property or on the farmer's property overlooking the creek. So you have opportunities to do things that normal people usually don't do. And the thing is that in the country, it's a lot different. Like, there's still people that I know very well. They operate with only a handshake. So a lot of times, all it really takes is that you just say, listen, I want to build a stand right here so I can do some viewing or hunting. You can use it. I'll build it to these specifications. The farmer says yes, because you can't use all that property by the creek. There might be an area where like the tractor can't fit its towed items, whenever it's doing the seeding or whatever. A lot of people I know, they just kind of leave 30 foot around the creek bends alone. They don't want to do that. So these are things I've been dealing with here rurally with other friends of mine, because our easement doesn't cover that. I want to have just a small spot right next to this tree where I can view the deer. And most farmers that are around here, they deal with grain corn. They don't with what do they call that? They're not dealing with consumable corn that you're going to use on your dinner plate. They're going to use like corn that the cows will eat, or worse, that gets turned into biofuel, because biofuel is garbage. James L says, I dream about dogs and cats all the time. I need to upgrade my fence and get a fur friend. Bar Hockman says, I remember one person describing a terrier as a rat-seeking missile. They are. Hold on. Let me show you what I go to sometimes. Let's see. Yeah. Let me share you the screen here for just a minute, because
Spaniel's marking now.
look at those guys go. So anyway, I watch stuff like that when I'm bored, and it's probably not the thing I should watch the most, but I really like watching terriers go after rats. Yeah, that rodent was extra dead. It got torn apart by two fucking scrappy dogs. I just love terriers. I see things like that and I'm like, let me know when you're gonna have pups. Get one or two of those for the house. The only negative is that I live in an apartment, and my neighbors, they probably don't want to hear two dogs barking or playing with each other all day, but damn it, I want a dog. I want two dogs. That way they keep each other company. And whenever we go out and do things and out of doors, oh, look, there was a rat. Now the dogs have a toy for the next 45 seconds. Yeah. And That's just the type of thing that I like to watch. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but whatever. I'm a big fan of seeing happy dogs. Grumpy's like, terriers are something else. My sister has a Cocker Spaniel Poodle mix that looks like a tiny Chewbacca. You get the right dog, and you will have a tiny Chewbacca. They look like they are just little ferocious things, and then they turn into a lap dog, and you get this misperception. You get this wrong perception of the dog because it's on your lap and it wants you to pet its belly and rub its belly and be its friend, that it can't hurt anything. Well, that changes when a rodent enters the house or enters its purview of perception. The dog will, after that, turn into a terrorist, a murderous bastard, and make sure it's gone. Big fan. I don't know how to say it any other way. I'm a big fan of terriers. They just do things right, you know. And it's not that I don't like cats. Cats are okay, but I'd rather have terriers at a farmhouse than a cat. The cats will not compete with a dog when it comes to killing rodents. The rodents will destroy, will be destroyed by dogs. Yeah, Mark Hogman says the same failure of logic that makes people think cats are harmless. Fuck, I'm not a big cat fan. It's not that I don't like cats. I think they have their use, their purpose, but I don't think they're our friends. I think that they allow us to be around each other. And a lot of people, like, they try to train their cats or whatever, but cats are dicks. They're worse than dogs in that aspect, where they don't really have the servant mentality that dogs do. If a dog and you are good with each other, you know, the dog realizes you're the master, I'm the dog, and they exist for you. They love everything you've got. You know, your dog knows everything about you, and it still chooses to be with you every day. I don't know if there's a better description of love out there. James L. says, Scotland bulldozed 13,000 trees to build a wind farm. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of wind farms. They failed us in the winter. I'll just say that. I'm pro-environment in the risk management sense, but when they always just pass the cost on to you, it's suspect. Yeah, and that's biofuel. Biofuels, I think, are garbage. If you put the biofuel in your vehicle now, the 10% ethanol, you have a higher temperature that your vehicle operates at, and that's really not good for the vehicle engine. That's really a bad thing. And there's no other reason to do it other than the fact that that's all you could put in there. If you have a choice between that and non-ethanol fuel, spend the extra 4 or 5 dimes per gallon and get the non-ethanol fuel. You'll see an increase in your actual efficiency. I will tell you, I have a 2019 Honda Civic Sport, which is not a great performance vehicle. It's not. It's a quick off the line vehicle. It's not a fast moving vehicle. Whenever I'm racing around with a Camaro or somebody with a dedicated sports car, they will roast my ass. But in the curves, I can usually manage to stay even with them or even pull away, because a lot of drivers just don't know how to drive a rear-wheel drive car without putting their fucking ass end into a wall. Sorry, guys, you don't. And once we straighten out, you know, I'm smoked. I get passed up really bad. My car's only got a 1.5 liter turbo, and it's only a 205 horse. It's not a real big horsepower junkie. It's not, but it's quick off the line and it's a manual shift. But whenever I am using regular ethanol fuels, even 93 octane, my fuel economy drops down to 34 miles per gallon. And that's not bad. That's really a good That's really a good rate. My dad's Sintra gets that, and he's got a CVT transmission. Well, when I put in ethanol, it drops down to 34. When I use non-ethanol fuels, which cost me right now $3.99 a gallon as of yesterday, I put 10 gallons in. That's the entire fuel tank. Cost me about $50, $40. Hold on. Yeah, buddy.
Hey, buddy. Hey, so I guess the Highlander closed down, so they don't have the Highlander parking. People can park here.
You can still park in that brown. You can still park in that blue parking lot there.
Okay.
They have a bunch of violators will be towed signs, or no?
Yeah, there's red signs saying, yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Fuck.
Big red signs on the gates in front of the parking lot.
Because usually people can park back at the wall and they're not fucked with.
Yeah, the sign that used to be on there, hey, you can park here.
Yeah.
It's no longer there.
Well, so that sucks.
Yeah.
Was it that way 2 weeks ago whenever you and Travis were there?
Huh?
Was it that way 2 weeks ago?
I don't know. I didn't even look. I just looked now. I wasn't really paying attention then.
Now they have violators will be towed?
Yeah, so right over by where the Highlander parking lot is, and there's the grass right next to the street.
Yeah.
It says residents and guest parking only. Parking is by permit only.
Okay, I need to get you a permit tomorrow then. You want to go park over by the Dragon's Lair and I'll pick you up over there?
I don't even know where the Dragon's Lair is.
It's up the road on Medical and Fredericksburg.
Oh, shit. Well, how are you supposed to have guests?
I don't think we're supposed to. We have parking permits. I've never gotten you one, but I'll have to get you one here apparently.
I'm gonna fucking park here.
That is really weird. They changed that.
Well, it has it on the gate.
Yeah, well, I know that on the gate, you can't park inside the gate unless you've got a parking pass. You should be able to park outside there still.
I'm still outside the gate.
You want me to come pick you up?
Oh, I'll be so fucking mad yeah, go ahead and come pick me up.
All right. Okay, guys. I'm going to shut down the
So
stream.
upset if I get to-
Yeah, you and me both. I'm going to shut down the stream for right now. It's been 2 hours and 43 minutes. I do appreciate everybody coming here today, and we will see you guys later on next week on this very Sunday. Thank you.